Excellent.
Thanks.
Okay, welcome to the Eastline Board of Education meeting. We called the meeting to order at 5:04 and went immediately into an executive session for the purpose of discussion of the administrator contract negotiations. We are out of executive session and we are called to order. So the next item on the agenda is public comment. We received three comments from the public. The first one is from Carla Mamola, and she is following up on other messages that she has given to us. And she was very glad that she saw a note regarding Eastline Middle School providing Zoom instructions for students at home. Thank you. This is a big step in the right direction. She still has some additional points which she highlighted, which were, what are the steps you are going to take to make up the lost time over the past few months? And there is no valid rationale for having snow days given the circumstances. She also had a couple of points about the diversity initiative that we have ongoing. She wanted to know more about how and who was selected for the diversity task force. And she also would like to see any materials or talking points for elementary and middle school before it is presented to students. So that was the comments from Carla. Again, all board members have received these comments and they're available. They are posted on Board Doc and they'll be available as part of the public record for this meeting. The second public comment comes from Rebecca Freeman, who is a mother of a third grade student. I am writing to strongly urge you to leave the elementary virtual Viking program in place for the remainder of the academic year, regardless of the changes that were made to the in-person hybrid models of education. And she goes on to kind of embellish the value of having the virtual Viking program. And again, ends with, again, continuing to urge to keep the program in place, regardless of what changes happen in the hybrid model. And that's from Rebecca Freeman of 26 Marion Drive. And the third comment is from Diane Swan, who is the president of Stars to STEM. She's asking the board to continue to hold the planetarium room as their incorporation continues. And she's also requesting a Zoom meeting with members of the Board of Ed who are part of the Planetarium Ad Hoc Committee, so we can provide you with more updated information. That's from Diane Swan. So those are the three public comments that we have. And again, those are available for everybody to see. That brings us to the approval of some minutes that we have. We have the minutes from our November 5th meeting, which was a special meeting that we had. So would anybody like to make a motion on those minutes?
I would like to make a motion to approve the minutes of November 5th special meeting.
Okay. Anybody like to second it?
Second.
Who's that? Was that? Missed it.
Lee.
Lee, thank you, Lee. Okay, we got a second. Any corrections, adjustments to those minutes as you see? No? Okay, all those in favor of approval of the motion on the table signify by saying aye. Aye. Does anybody not approve? Does anybody want to abstain? John, I think, yeah, John abstains. The other set of minutes that we have are from the November 9th regularly scheduled meeting. And that those minutes are attached. So would anybody like to make a motion on those minutes?
I would like to make a motion to approve the minutes of our November 9th regular meeting.
Okay. Is there a second? Second, Lee seconds it. Any corrections, adjustments to those minutes? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Does anybody want to vote against the approval of the minutes? No. Anybody want to abstain? John abstains. Okay, good. So we're all set with those minutes. I did not see a selectman representative in the waiting room or that came on. I know that the 5 o'clock time slot is difficult for some folks to hit it. So I don't think, Jeff, there isn't anybody that you see?
I just checked this.
Okay. Okay. I do see we have two student high school representatives, Grace and Sachi. Yeah, hi. Hi. So who would like to go first?
I think I'm starting it off. I don't have that much to say. Grace is going to be talking about the information that we got from the full Senate. But so far, the clubs have been continuing on their Wednesdays normal meetings, and the junior and senior Senates just wrapped up their leaf cleanup and ended up actually raising around $4,500. So that was really impressive. And obviously sports are not in session, but the CIAC decided that the start date for sports would be pushed until January 19th. And then Grace, go ahead.
So after the full Senate meeting, we were, I brought together a lot of the comments that I saw in the chat and that some people said over the Zoom meeting that we had. So regarding the activities we could do throughout the day, if we go back in school in person to get students moving around, if sports still aren't in session, we thought that maybe we could do basketball tournaments outside during lunch put on by the Senate, socially distance, and then possibly socially distance volleyball or dodgeball or badminton. So each of these being 6 feet apart with masks on, either in some gym area or outside. And then some other senators thought that maybe we could do class competitions with these sports or something to get class points, almost similar to Spirit Week. And then in regards to AP classes and missing that on Wednesdays, not having that day, and possibly getting behind in some of these classes, we talked about what we could do besides Zoom, if anybody had any ideas. So there are kind of a lot of the comments that we got were very similar in regards to they could do possibly at-home learning assignments where they could do something small just to a little something to just help them not get so far behind, or possibly if it's not just a little assignment, they could do watch a pre-recorded video from the teacher just to not get so far behind. And then one senator said that possibly they could do an AP study day where the students can get together over Zoom without direct instruction, but still actively learning and studying the material. So overall, that's the stuff that the Senate came up with that we were talking about.
Excellent. Wow. Wow. Any questions for Grace or Sachi? Kate?
I'm wondering, so how many of the clubs are in session now, or what kinds of clubs activities are going on besides the Senate?
So there's a lot of different clubs that have been getting together over Zoom. So the clubs that I know of are National Honor Society and Spanish Honor Society and French Honor Society have all been able to get together over Zoom and start trying to do different community service projects that are more socially distanced. And then there's also different mathletes and are doing stuff over Zoom. And then I know HOSA, which is a medical club, is also doing stuff over Zoom. And
I know that there are a couple clubs where the advisors have a lot on their plates. So their clubs have been kind of in the back burner of priority of getting up and running again. Most of them are pretty small clubs, but the bigger ones are definitely what Grace has mentioned have been up and running. But I do know of a few that still need to be started for the year.
Sachi, I couldn't find you for a while. I was looking all over. So now that I found you, what are the clubs that they're having a hard time finding some administrator or some teacher faculty? Because sometimes it's people in the community too. We could I'm just thinking maybe we could help with that. It doesn't need to be a faculty person. It just needs to be somebody who considers that a topic of high interest, right?
Yes, so the one that really comes to mind, just because I'm a part of it, or was a part of it, still is part of it, is the Star System Club. The advisor that we have right now is a little overwhelmed with the rest of her classes and stuff, so but that was the main club that I could think of.
Okay, because, you know, that really kind of makes it difficult, I guess, to be able to have those activities if you don't have it. So, and then the Viking saga, my daughter was a big Viking saga person as one of the editors. So what do you hear from them? Because I was able to look on some of that. As a board, we're working really hard on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and saw that they wrote some really good articles on those topics that we're covering as a board. Can either or both of you speak to that? Or I lost you, Grace, now that I found Sashi. Okay.
Yeah, I think so. The Viking Saga has been doing a really good job of creating editions and handing them out to when like kids are in school. And so over the years, I think they have worked at trying to hit topics of like high interest regarding like diversity and stuff. But this year, I think that they've done a better job. Well, not a better job, but they've worked. They put more articles in about that.
They were phenomenal. You guys did a phenomenal, they did a phenomenal job. Whoever was involved, you guys did a beautiful job.
Yes, and I think that they're well received by the students too. And like first period class, I see all my friends reading them and stuff. So I think overall they've been doing a good job this year, and especially with the circumstances too, they've been able to still hand them out.
Well, I just thought it was really interesting that what they're talking about is so relevant that those are the things that we're talking about as a board. So sharing some of that information back with us would be really helpful as well, because just at our last board meeting, we were talking about microaggressions, and then I did some research and review and found up some of their Viking sagas, and that was one of the big articles, and they did a beautiful job.
Great.
So thank you, and kudos to them. Pass that on, please.
Good. Any other questions? Eric?
Hi, Grace, can I just ask a few more questions about the AP piece that you talked about? I think what you said is that maybe you'd have some student-led sessions, so where you can have reviews and the students actually come together, obviously optional, but allows you to review. And is that one of your proposals?
Yeah, that was one of like the senator's proposals that someone had brought up during the full Senate meeting. I think that could be a good option. I think that something with incorporating new material too as well on those Wednesdays could also be beneficial too, just to make sure that we keep moving forward.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
well, I mean, that sounds like I don't know what the process to do something like that is, but I think you get multiple benefits. One is there's the learning, but it's also the leadership of students having to step up and do take responsibility for their own learning. That seems very interesting to me. One idea that I'd been thinking about, I'm interested in yours and Sachi's thoughts, is I know for myself, I started doing better in college when I actually read what the lecture was going to be about before rather than after. And I wonder if, as you start looking at AP classes, I don't know how much, probably not many, but actually read the material and then you have kind of the lecture and then do the work, because it goes a lot quicker and faster, and probably the teacher can cover more material. So I don't know if there's some way, I don't know how much that is done. I wouldn't be surprised if there's not a lot, but maybe that's something we need to push more of, because that would allow the teacher to progress quicker through the materials. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
I definitely agree, but a lot of it definitely depends on the style of teaching for each AP class. Some teachers are very structured and already have been handing out like weekly syllabuses almost, but not necessarily lecture notes, but others are not. So I do agree that might be a good idea, just as a complete visual of what the students have ahead of them for the rest of the week. But
I agree. I think that it really depends on the class too, because some classes like live by the textbook and have us read every section of the textbook that like corresponds with what they're teaching. But then some other classes have us barely read the textbook because they think that it's more effective with their lessons, and they think that they pull out the most important parts of it. So I think that definitely with some classes that could work, but possibly for the classes that don't use the textbook as much, maybe even just like a little like 5 or 10 minute video that the teachers could post on like a Wednesday just to say this is what the lesson's going to be about, and like something a little like sneak peek of how to do this stuff might make the stuff go a little bit faster on the days when we do have class. Like, so something like that might work too.
Okay. Well, great. Thanks, Grace and Sachi, and keep coming up with ideas and suggestions. We're definitely open to hearing from you and the rest of the high school students on how we can progress things.
Okay.
Good. Any other questions, comments? Good. Grace, is the college application thing all going the typical way?
Yeah, it's a little bit different because we don't have like the college and career lady. So Miss Meek has been working with a lot of this stuff, like sending out the transcripts and stuff. So it was a little bit of an adjustment sometimes, but overall mine have gone pretty smoothly after some emails back and forth and stuff. But other than that, it's been working out pretty well. And I've heard the same from my classmates too.
Good. That's good to hear. So, okay, great. Okay, well, thank you very much. It's great hearing directly from what's going on. So, in the Senate, as sounds like it was a very productive meeting. So, very good. Excellent. Okay, that brings us to our discussion action items for the evening. And the first one that's on the board is discussion of the Eastline Public Schools 2021 COVID-19 update. And Jeff, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, a couple points that I just wanted to make is, we're moving into, Thanksgiving, and then, Christmas or the holiday break will be right around, the corner. As you've known, and we are putting that out to our community through the messaging system. We've put it out I've texted all of you to keep you informed, as well as, we are letting some of our town representatives know as well. We've had 3 additional cases today. So each day, it seems like there's been, some additional cases, whether it's 1, whether it's 3, a couple times we've had 4. We're doing the best we can. The issue that comes forth really is concern is safety of everybody, but the staffing component too, with all the quarantining. I think I let the board know 30 staff. That takes a hit on what we're trying to do in classrooms, and there's just no subs. So that causes a problem for trying to keep instruction rolling in the most appropriate manner, and the decision to go remote temporarily or not. I was on a call with the Department of Health last Friday, and I have another one tomorrow. We are talking to them regularly, and their message continues to be, keep kids in school, as much as you possibly can. Kind of sound like a broke saying it's the safest place. Cases are not necessarily being transmitted, but we have to watch that carefully, and we got to make sure that the safety of all is in play with that. So it's a daily monitoring, 7 days a week, to make sure we're making the right decisions and trying to do the best we can for kids. I don't know what it will look like between Thanksgiving and the holiday break. I'm hopeful to keep our schools in, have the middle school and high school back after Thanksgiving, but this week we'll watch what happens with cases, and we'll continue to follow the recommendations of Legislate Health District and our medical advisor as well. So again, I've tried to keep you updated through the weekly updates too, but that's kind of it. We're kind of in a holding pattern right now, and high school and middle school, as I stated, are slated to come back on the 30th. And our 3 elementary schools are in, right now, with some quarantining, some classes out quarantining. And we started the contact tracing ourselves as well. I want to thank the administrative team members, the principals, and our central office staff for their work with that, because they're doing, quite a bit of extra. We appreciate that beyond belief. It's all been a lot of work on all of them. So thank you to each and every one of them. So happy to open up, if there's any questions. I'll try to keep you informed, as we've gone along each day.
Good. Kate, I saw your hand up.
Well, I'm wondering what our current numbers are, and also I'm hoping that the cases are mild. Can we have, I just want to know how bad it is to be, are they really suffering? Has anybody been hospitalized? How are the kids? Are they getting sick?
I don't know of anyone that is really sick. I think,
Okay.
you've got, what's happened, I think you've got two things. You've got clusters of families that all have it, like the whole family has it, and they might have, grandparents or a parent. I know there's some parents that I believe are in the hospital that are ill. I don't know of any students at all. And I don't know of any staff members other than, the typical symptoms.
Right.
My head, there might be, that I don't know about, but the other side is the sports side. This is where the cluster is coming from.
Sports.
It's been families, the whole family, is identified as being, positive, and then the sports side of things as well. So we're just trying to monitor daily.
Good. Any other questions on this topic for Jeff? Anything else? We're in a holding pattern and keeping our fingers crossed.
Yeah, we'll definitely keep you posted on any changes, and we will continue to message out every day if there's a case. I know, some people are appreciative of that. Some people are getting in, but I think, that we be trained, that, our school community know, when cases are happening.
I think we should know.
Yeah, agreed. Yep.
Okay. All right. Good. Okay. We'll move on to the next item, which is some initial budget discussions for our budget for 2021 and 2022. So, and I know the FFO meeting occurred at 4 o'clock, and they started looking at that information as well. So, Jeff, I'll let
Tim, I don't know if that was. Am I frozen or are you frozen?
Yes.
Okay. Go
You
ahead.
definitely broke up, and Jeff, you're breaking up a little bit. So
I think we're on to the next item. Update on the COVID district expenses. Tim,
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so yeah, with FFO, we went through that updated projection sheet, the reopening projected expenditures. Hopefully everybody had a chance to kind of take a look at that. There's some things that are up. There's a number of things that are down as we, Mariana has projected out, those expenses as we move through, the rest of the year. I just want to highlight a couple of important ones. Total estimated PPE, we are up 55,000 there. That's the estimated cost. If we do sometime in the new year, we're able to bring back or start to bring back K-6 students, we want to make sure, we have more plexiglass and more PPE cost, and that's mostly around that 55,000. Another one that stood out is, transportation, a reduction of $20,991. That's the bus monitors and decreased costs for additional costs of cleaning and sanitizing. We talked about bus monitors at FFO, whether or not, we have a need for more or not. At this point, we're holding steady with the ones, that we do have and not hiring any more. If we bring back, more students, kids on the bus, do we need to have, more monitors? But at this point, given that we're almost halfway through the year, we've had a reduction there. Subbing services, reduction of, 80,000 there. There's just not enough subs out there. And we're not seeing the need to hire as many as we had projected. So less subs. The virtual Viking program, that's another one that we do have we're going to have students that have been joining the virtual Viking, especially across all the boards, but at the elementary level, especially, we've seen an increase. And we've got 2 classrooms that are very high right now. A grade 2 class that's sitting at 32 students, and a grade 4 class that's sitting around 28 students. So we're looking at what we're going to do about that, and there's going to be a need for some additional staffing support. The teachers have done an unbelievable job with these programs, and we've got a lot of very positive feedback. I mean, you heard one of the public comments tonight. They want that program to continue. So and Linda Nani has done a great job, very part-time capacity, trying to help support that. So there will be some increases there, and as of right now, that's $62,669. Unanticipated estimate expenses. We talked at FFO. Mariana had reduced it down to 50,000. We decided to put it back up to 100,000, just because we don't know what's to come. So we bumped that back up to. We will bump that back up to 100, and then you'll see the net projected, COVID-related expenditures of the 250,251. Add 50,000 to that, and that's where we're sitting as subtract 50,000 from that, and we've got a reduction there. So, so that's kind of a highlight of that. Any questions about any of the areas specifically as you reviewed the document? And this is a living, breathing document. I think Barry, you get your hand up.
Very quick question. Under the Zoom licenses, we're down $7,000 on that.
We are.
How did that happen, and is that going to continue going down?
Mariana, we dropped the 7. Do we know if we're going to drop?
So the 20,000 that you see, Barry, is actual what we've spent. I dropped the 7 because initially we were thinking we needed to purchase some licenses for some other staff, but we have all the licenses we need. So that's why I got rid of the projected estimates.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Okay.
We'll bring this to the Board of Finance at their December 9th meeting, and have ongoing conversations with them as well to keep them in the loop on this too.
Okay, good. Should we move to the 2021-22 budget discussions, initial discussions?
So you all saw or had a chance hopefully to look at the 22 preliminary, budget summary. We had a real good discussion at FFO on this, and the idea came. Well, first let me preface. The document that you looked at is very preliminary. It's only the end of November. We got a lot of work to do through December. And we have to, I'll work with Tim and then the rest of you as, to have that budget workshop in December to really dive in more. But the numbers you saw are very preliminary. We just wanted to get it out of the gate as to, what some of our thoughts were. And with that at FFO, we talked about, just a kind of a recap of where we were last year. And Mariana, I don't know, were you able to, did you say you found that document from last year's, could we share that quick?
Oh, yeah, hold on.
I don't know if you've got that, because
I do.
Out of the gate last year, remember, we were sitting over 5%.
Yeah.
Going in over 5%
Yeah.
before COVID.
You know what? I sent it to you, Jeff. I don't think I can share, but if you look in your email, I sent it to you while we were on FFO.
No
So,
problem.
because I can't share.
Yeah, let me just see if I can pull that up real quick.
Okay. It's 2 pages. The first page was like the summary that kind of got us to where we ended up before all of this happened. And then the second page shows all of the items that we had put in.
Okay, so hopefully everybody can see this. Yeah, if you were just to recap, so if you remember, where we were sitting last year, we broke it down with, and we hadn't pulled this up until we talked at FFO, but we were well over that 5% mark, and some of those. Here was a listing of kind of we had put down and had put out there for us to be talking about. If you remember, we had the first grade teachers, kindergarten teachers as additions, 2 at each grade level. Math coaches, we were requesting 2 math coaches last year. The social worker, that was at high school, that's in there again. So I won't go through all these, but just to kind of give you a sense of, where we were at last year with some of those requests. And then if you kind of go over to, this year's form, the major budget in front of you. What's easier, Tim? You want me to pull that up?
Sure.
Let me pull that up and let me stop sharing this. Just to give you a flavor of, we were looking at 11.5 new additional FTEs, out of the gate, last year. So it was a lot of staff and a high number, but we were all on board with that, especially, around the math coaches. So with that being said, we'll transition over. I can send this to you so you can all as well from last year. But let me get out of this, and let me just go into this year's budget sheet quick. Hold on one sec. There it is. All right. So when we look at this this document here, the social worker is back in, and these are major budgetary needs, which are part of this preliminary 3.80% increase, for next year. And again, very preliminary. I want to make sure we preface that. The social worker at the high school, an important element as it pertains to the SEL components, for students and families, especially with COVID hitting. I mean, we had wanted this for this current year, and we didn't. We actually ended up cutting it out. Definitely a need for next year. The CODA, the Certified Occupational Therapy Assistant. Kim, you want to just talk about this certified assistant just for a minute as
Sure.
a need there?
Yep, absolutely. So we have, from time to time, as you know, caseloads shift, and we are trending up in our special education numbers. And at the middle, we have 3 full-time occupational therapists, which we have had for a very long time. And one is assigned to share the Niantic Center caseload along with the middle school caseload. And currently, between those 2 sites, from consult all the way to direct services for 101 students currently, which is significantly higher than her colleagues across the district, and is just high by any standard of measure. And so in order to help out with that, I'm recommending we add the CODA position to defray, those numbers. And so we're providing consistent services to kids on their, as outlined by their IEPs and their 504s. We've had great success. We added a CODA to the preschool and loads, and that has been a great service and has really allowed for staff to focus their attention on what they're doing. They because they balance evaluating students, attending meetings, and then their direct service schedule. And so that can the meeting schedule can really compete with the service schedule on a very regular basis. So we want to improve that consistency and have kids not missing services and therapists trying to find ways to make up those services, which they do and are committed to. But it's a lot of change. And so that's why I've put that in there for next year. And we're going to use some CARES Act dollars this year to add a person to already start chipping away at that imbalance in the caseload. But, it has been our way in the past to add providers as Eastline employees instead of contracted individuals. And we get a good result from that in terms of being able to shift them around where needs are, at their highest, and also, building a team mentality where, staff members are in it together. They cover for each other, they brainstorm with one another, they meet routinely as a department, and they really build a good infrastructure. So It's just time again for a little bit of an expansion in that area.
Thank you, Kim. The next two items, this was the Marlene Magos, who came to our last board meeting from CREC and talked about the regional program to see if we could bring in, one individual for the school year at the elementary level. It's that cost. This is split between 30 and 35, so it's a total of $65,000, and that's part of our minority efforts and minority recruitment. So we put a placeholder in on this. I know there was some discussion. We haven't finalized on whether, CREC is the one we want to go with or that program, but, regionally, the districts around us are using that, are going with that program, and it'd be great to kind of join forces with them. Mariana, the pension, you just want to make mention about the pension, why the pension's up 160,000?
Yes, last year I had mentioned it toward the end. The actuaries changed the mortality tables changed. And so in doing so, extending the life of individuals, which obviously drives up the cost of the pension benefits. So that went up 16%, our contribution. So it was implemented after we had our budget in place. So obviously that shows a significant increase over last year's budget.
Thanks, Mariana. So we categorize those as, some of the major budgetary needs. Just out of the gate, the first things we're thinking, okay, these are things that are very important to us. We've had conversations about, we want in place. 21 needs that were not included in the 2021 adopted budget, for this year. So, as you know, we brought on an additional Flanders special education teacher this year, paid for out of the CARES Act money for this year, and not budgeted for. So we need a budget for that for next year to keep that additional special education teacher at Flanders. Kim's here. We can talk about special education numbers. They are, have been on the rise. We feel that's an important element. Part-time technicians, with 3,000 new additional devices in district, there is a need for some additional technician support in the world of technology. If you remember the custodian vacancies, we had high school and Nyack Center. We held off on filling those at the beginning of the year. We weren't sure, were we going to be remote, were we going to be on site? So we held off as long as we could. We are still in need of bringing, those two positions, additional positions into the fold. And then paraprofessionals, there is a need for some additional paraprofessionals as we look at next year. As I mentioned, special education numbers are up. We have had a number of students that have moved into district from out of state. I think it was Kim 4 that are requiring this year one-to-one direct services. We also, we're again, we've said it before too in years past, our outplaced numbers are very low, sitting at 12 right now. We want to keep those numbers lower because there's obviously a high cost, but we need to make sure we're supporting, our teachers and staff on site. So there's a need of some additional paraprofessional support. This is split because the 50,000 is part of the salaries with the negotiation of their contract, which started back in 2019. And then the addition of, three more paras. Kim, anything to add or you want to add on that?
I would just say that, as of our October 1 snapshot, we're at 436 students that we service across the district. And our elementary numbers are definitely high within our specialty programs, which means our students who we service on the autism spectrum, our students with social, emotional, behavioral needs, and our students with various cognitive disabilities. And so that's where the staffing numbers are most intensive. We also have several students moving next year from the middle school to the high school. A success is that they are needing less support structurally from a program, which means they can be included more in the mainstream. But one aspect of that is maintaining a paraprofessional with them so that they are out in their mainstream classes more often instead of in a more restrictive environment. And so that's a good thing. It's just a little bit staff intensive. You know, as Jeff said, we had 4 new students who required paraprofessionals start with us this year. We also had a total of 7 intensive students move in. 4 of those had an IEP paraprofessional already written, and you know, when you get an out-of-state IEP, you implement it as written until you get to know the student and make determinations from there. We did bring 2 students back this school year from out-of-district placements. So, you know, that's always a move in the right direction. And those guys can have a large price tag because it's not only tuition, but transportation that makes a difference in the cost when a student is not attending in district. And the last thing I'll say is just that I mentioned that the elementary numbers are robust. So years ago in our ABA program, when I first started, you know, 12 years ago, 13 years ago with the district, we had 3 kids in an intensive ABA program. Now we have, for next school year, we'll have 16 K-4 kids in our autism intensive program. So several of them use communication devices because they're nonverbal, and they have various needs. So they're not, you know, it's not an over-identification. It's a legitimate, you know, robust caseload of kids with various needs. And we're very happy to keep them in our district. They do a great job being a part of the Haynes community, and we wouldn't really have it any other way, but that's big. So, you know, again, those are where our staff intensive programs, you know, demand that kind of that level. And so that's what we're seeing.
Thanks, Kim. So all of those items, again, all preliminary, but add up to the 615, 218. So out of the gate, if we just roll over salaries and health insurance, Mariana, correct me if I'm wrong, but we put that at 8% for next year. Okay, so an 8% increase with health insurance and the salaries put us at, you know, out of the gate 2.59, and add the 615, 218, puts it up to the 3.80 right now. And then if you scroll down to the very bottom piece, this is not in this 3.80 or in the 259, but this is some additional thoughts, things that we are having to have more discussion on. We're just not there yet. I'm a little concerned. I think, you know, I talked to a number of different folks. We had a lot of parents that held back having their kindergarten students come to school this year and are waiting. So is that going to drive our kindergarten numbers up? So I think we need to be leery of that and get a better handle of, with kindergarten registration start, are we going to need more kindergarten teachers for next year potentially? So that's one element. Niantic Center School has a higher caseload, as well as Kim's talked about with special education across the board. There's the potential need for an additional 0.5 FTE special education teacher at Niantic Center School. And the math coaches, as I showed that previous sheet from last year, and we wanted 2. We put 1 in right now as a placeholder, but maybe as we have more conversations, we put 2 in, and we keep playing with the numbers as we move forward and have further discussions. So if you added all this additional 284, 389 in, it put the 3.80 up to 4.36. You can see this note that Mariana put in on the bottom of the sheet here. So just a out of the gate way to break it down, kind of give you a synopsis of, you know, where we're at, you know, right now. Obviously, we need to have a lot more discussion and take a deeper dive into this, but I'll open it up for, you know, any comments, you know, questions or conversation at this point.
Any questions? Jamie?
So my initial comment is that I know you all feel how I feel about social workers, and I know I can't say it enough, but I would like more than one social worker, and I would like them at the high school, the middle school, and the elementary schools, and not just a shared one at each of the elementary schools, but one for each building. I think especially now with everything that's going on and all the mental health issues that are going on with not only our students and our staff, that more is better than just the one. But I say that every year, so I feel like a broken record, but that is my comment.
Thanks, Jamie. I saw Kate had her hand up, and then Barry can go.
Kim, I guess as far as like service delivery model, I've always found that you get more effective programming with inclusion. Just wondering how much you are providing in terms of inclusionary services, teaching the teachers to be good interventionists as well, and the paraprofessionals, and basically all the staff. And, you know, that was always kind of my focus on how to do intervention, is try to get as many people on board with the intervention. Is that something that you find that the therapists are doing currently?
Yeah, I mean, you know, well, current conditions have pulled
Yeah,
that
yeah,
back a little bit, but yes, Kate, absolutely. Last year, the speech pathologists had it as their department goal, where they were delivering speech in the classroom more often. And that was working wonderfully. I have to say that we have backed off of that a little bit this year, just because of cohorting and, you know, trying to have less mobility around the buildings. But yes, that's absolutely something that's high on our radar.
Thank you. Good job.
Barry?
Okay, very quickly, last year when we went over this, we had some discussion about this format, which is basically a line item budget, and moving a little bit more to a program budget where we link the expenses to outcomes. And I'm just hoping as we go forward with this, we can figure out a way to answer that question that Camille brought up last year in our hearings about what is the outcome, what are we going to achieve as a result of the investment in our schools. Just as an example, I mean, I look at the well, you take like the special ed teachers, you know, I mean, it's a necessary thing, and they're great to have in here. If we could take an issue that we're facing, for example, the high gap between our performance and growth between our special needs students and our non-special needs students, and say that by linking the special ed teachers, the expenditure on that to a goal that we are going to reduce the gap, the growth gap between the performance of our special high needs students and our non-high needs students. That sets our budget in much more of a focused outcome nature than by simply listing it as a line item budget in which we can't really say what our outcomes. And for example, even to Jamie's point, if we were able to say, here's the current situation that we face in terms of some issues related to social emotional learning. Our goal is to address those issues by hiring more social workers. And so we set that this expenditure is going to be focused in on achieving some goals, so that next year when we come around with our budget issues, we're going to say, you gave us this amount of money, and here's what we accomplished with that. And I'm seeing that we had this issue last year, and I would like us to be in a position to do that this year with the budget.
Okay. Any other comments? John?
I think 3.8 is a good place to start, Jeff, on the increase. But question maybe for Mariana or Jeff, we're not solidified at all on ECS funding, right?
Oh, I know that there's a big push, I know from our superintendent's organization, we just talked about this actually last week, to get the state to, you know what, remain stable with that. Don't decrease ECS funding. So I don't know, John, if you've heard anything else about that.
Yeah, no. I'm just saying, so like 3.8 is a great place to start in comparison to where we were last year, where we started with the incoming or upcoming rather fiscal storm that we're going to face, because we're going into a new biennium on the budget side of life. So it's just going to be really interesting to watch that. And I think there's a big push for stable funding and for what we got last time. But you know, it's nobody has any type of clue in terms of what that's actually going to look like over the next several months in terms of the quarters coming back. So, but it's going to be interesting. But I mean, you know, I missed the FFO meeting because I got stuck at work. But 3.8% with these priorities in there make a lot of sense to me. So.
Okay. Just one thing I didn't make mention of, we still need to sit individually with each of the principals. Those meetings start up right after Thanksgiving. They did a great job, diving into their budgets. Them again for their hands. And again, we haven't even yet met with them to have those fruitful discussions. So that will all be happening soon.
Good. Barry, you got your hand back up again.
Yeah, quickly, Jeff, you just reminded me, I had a note here on school improvement plans. If there was some way that we could review or bring in the result of the school improvement plans 1920, those results into this discussion to show the improvement that we made in the schools as reference to the school improvement plans that resulted from the budget expenditure 2019 to 20. And then as the principals work on their school improvement plans for next year, we could link that to our budget requests. That, in other words, that if we have certain items listed in the school improvement plans, that those items listed in the school improvement plans would be reflected in our budget requests, so that we can say, we're asking for this much more money, and as a result of that money, here's what we're going to impact as reflected in the school improvement plans.
Yeah, we can definitely going to come before, we have an opportunity to get to our school improvement plans for next year. That's the only, we'll see what happens with COVID, but that's the only concern or question, I guess, that jumps into my head, but definitely something more to discuss.
Anybody else? No? Eric, anything to add from the FFO discussion?
I think we've covered it. I mean, it's a great first start to start thinking about what we're going to do next year and where we want to focus our investments. We got to a place last year, pre-COVID, to some key investments that we wanted to make for this calendar year, which kind of got completely blown up and changed. But it'd be good to start thinking, as we're thinking about September 21, we hope we're in a better place, and maybe start to rethink about those investments. So I think it's a good start, and appreciate Jeff and Mariana coming up and pulling that stuff together.
Good. Okay. All right. All set to move on. Move on to our next item on discussion and action on diversity, equity, and inclusion action planning. I thought we had a really good committee of the whole meeting last Monday with the discussions on this issue. It was kind of like long overdue that for us to just to kind of openly just share all of our thoughts, and against that, we took notes and kind of put together what we had heard as a kind of a short-term action plan that came out of that discussion and all the other discussions we've been having. And Jeff sent that out for comment, and we got a little bit of comment back and made a couple of little adjustments into the short-term action plan. But that was kind of the first thing that was in the packet. Jeff, is there anything you want to say at the beginning here?
No, I mean, I want to thank, you, Barry and Lee, you all put some work into this, a lot of emails going back and forth this weekend. So thank you for, your efforts with that. And I think, I'm excited about, the documents that, are now attached, a lot of wordsmithing and some really good discussion. So thank you. I'm looking forward to continuing that.
I know in terms of the short-term actions, what we did was we kind of captured what at the end of the meeting, I tried to summarize kind of where the highest level of consensus was on items that we could start to tick to work against. It is by no means an inclusive listing of all of the great ideas and thoughts that people had. So I just want to make sure that everybody's aware of that, because there was a lot of really good items, and this is just the beginning, really, of doing this. There are two other attachments. One is the infamous Appendix A, which is basically a draft commitment statement. And there's been a little bit of adjusting on that. I thank Barry for his input on it as well. So there's been a little bit of changes to that. Nothing really significant, substantial. And that was that draft that came from Shipman and Goodwin as a beginning point. And then the last item, which is basically a proposed problem statement for the development of a strategic plan for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And this is where we had a fair amount of really good discussion, just kind of trying to get our thoughts captured around this. And I know we've just gotten this out to everybody to take a look at. So I still view this as kind of work in progress. If there are people that say, well, I don't like the way this sounds, or we need to think about something else, we're certainly open to that. I didn't know if anybody else had any comments. Barry, you want to, is there anything you'd like to share, or Lee? Barry, I'll open the floor to you here.
No, I think so, but I just want to acknowledge Lee's contribution to this, and I think that your perspective to bring us into what these statements would look like from a person from a diverse population was really, really instrumental in get us forward on that. And so I thank you for all the contributions you made on that.
Good. Excellent. So one of the items that we had on the that came out of, or ideas that did come out of the meeting we had on November 16th was to commission an ad hoc, or to propose commissioning an ad hoc subcommittee of the Board of Ed on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and with their primary state mission is to start, or to draft a strategic plan for the Board of Ed to review and then ultimately to adopt. And I thought that was, I think that's a really good idea, and I think we've got, I think the proposal was for Barry and Lee, who also serves on the diversity committee, and myself to be on that ad hoc committee. And again, this is a committee that would do work for the board to have full opportunity for review, input, discussion, modifications as well. So it's just really just as a working, it's a working group. So in order to have that officially done, we need to have a motion to form that ad hoc committee. And I was wondering if anybody would like to make that motion. Jamie, you're on mute.
I'm not, it's not to make the motion, but I'm wondering what the charge is going to be for the ad hoc committee. Do you have that in writing?
I did not put it in, I don't have it in writing yet, but basically it's to develop a strategic plan for the Board of Ed to address the issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And it would be anchored, I love the words that Barry has instilled in us. It would be anchored with a problem statement of the following, which is how can all activities, classroom-based and after school, included within the Eastline Public Schools, develop students' capacity as an independent thinker who embraces and champions diversity, equity, and inclusion. So that would be really the charter for it.
That would be the charge. Okay, I was just trying to figure out what your charge was going to be for the committee, because usually we come up with a charge before we do an ad hoc committee. So I was just, okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, well, we can put that down. That's something we can put that down in writing too. Anyway, so if people want to have that ad hoc committee, we need to take a action on that. And if people are not interested in having that done, go ahead, Jamie. I get you.
No, sorry, I have a second question. I'm sorry.
Sure.
So I'm just trying to figure out the agenda item. Is the agenda discussion action item to approve our statements and do an ad hoc committee, or is it just to approve an ad hoc committee?
Just to approve the ad hoc committee.
So it has nothing to do with the statements that were given to us?
Not yet, because I think everybody needs a little bit more time to review it and have input.
Okay.
But we'll definitely seek that closure to that Okay. Did I see, Kate, did you have
I
your
think
hand up?
I saw Kate, but I don't know where she went.
Yeah, she
I can't.
disappeared.
Okay.
Well,
So I guess
I was gonna
I was
make a
just going to
motion.
say I'll make the motion since I'm still here.
Go ahead.
I would like to make a motion for the Board of Education to put together an ad hoc subcommittee to, I'll read Barry's statement here, to determine how all activities, classroom-based and after-school included within Eastline Public Schools, can develop each student's capacity as an independent thinker who embraces and champions diversity, equity, and inclusion.
I'll second it.
Good. Thank you. Was that Kate? Who
It
seconded
was
it?
Jill.
Jill seconded. Okay. Is there any more discussion on this? And I saw some hands go up, so I want to make sure. If Eric, I saw your hand go up?
I was just gonna make the motion. No, I'm fully supportive. This is great. I'm really happy that we're moving in this direction.
Okay. And Kate, I saw your hand go up.
Well, I was going to make the motion, but I do have a question because I think that the statement should include, it sounded like action items for the board, but I think it should be action items for the community, for our schools. You know, as a board, we're kind of looking down and trying to look out for the best interest of our schools and our communities, but the action is not for us to be inclusive. It's for us to help our schools, our community, our faculty, our custodians, every person who interacts with any of our students to move forward with where they are from our baseline, right?
I think that's something that you certainly, if you could just capture those thoughts and send them into Jeff, so he can send it forward to the ad hoc committee if we choose to vote it in and so forth, that we'll have that, we'll put that input in. And that's what we're looking for, is input from all board members.
Okay. And then the other thing is that I brought up at the last meeting about microaggressions and submitted a document of samples of microaggressions. Not like we need, not like we need that, but just as a good framework, I think, and to begin, I think, as far as data collection, data documentation of what's an example and how to rectify it and correct it, because these are all teachable moments.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll share that out with the board. I reviewed that when Kate sent it. Actually, it's got some good information on it. So thank you, Kate, for doing that. I'll send it out to everybody.
Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, any further discussion on this item? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Does anybody oppose? Does anybody want to abstain? Okay, so that passes. And I think that basically is everything that we wanted to discuss on this item for this evening. Okay. All right. So.
Can I just
yeah.
make
Oh, go
one
ahead,
comment?
Barry.
For the record, there were several references to that as being my statement. I don't claim sole authorship of it. Lee was very influential in developing it, as were you. So I think it's our committee's.
Oh.
You know, it's not my authorship. It's not my statement. It's the three of us. And again, to acknowledge the important role that Lee had in developing it. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, that's very, very true. So I'm quite excited. I think that I'm optimistic that we're gonna have a very good plan that's gonna come very quickly. Okay, all right. We'll move on to the next several items, which are the second readings for a series of policies that we have. And I don't know, Jamie, did you want to walk us through that?
All right, so hold on, I made myself a note, so hold on. Okay, so the first is the second reading for a suggested Board of Ed policy 4111.3 minority recruitment plan. It is a second reading, so this is when we would vote to approve it. I don't know if anyone has any questions, comments, suggestions, or edits.
No.
No? All right, so then I would like to make a motion to approve the revisions to Board of Ed policy 4111.3 minority recruitment plan.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
I'll second it.
Okay, that was Lee got the second on that. Discussion on this one? No? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anybody want to oppose? Does anybody want to abstain? Okay, passes.
All right, the next one is the second reading for revision to policy 5145.41, non-discrimination students. This is a second reading, so if anyone has any questions, comments, or edits.
Jeff, anything?
All right, then I would like to make a motion to approve Board of Ed policy 5145.41, non-discrimination students.
Okay. Second?
I'll second it. I'll second it.
Jill seconds it. Okay.
The next one is,
Oh, wait a minute, discussion?
oops, sorry.
Nope, no discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody want to abstain? Okay, that passes. Go ahead, Jamie.
All right, the next one is the second reading for board policy 4118.11, non-discrimination staff. Any edits, questions, comments?
No.
No. All right, so I would like to make a motion to approve the revisions of Board of Ed policy 4118.11, non-discrimination staff.
Okay. Is there a second? Would like to second it?
Second.
I'll second it.
Eric seconds it. Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anybody oppose? Anybody abstain? Okay, Pat, no. Pat passes.
All right, so the next one is, is a new policy, Board of Ed policy, I don't know if there was a number on it.
Could be.
Board policy non-discrimination for the public. It's just a 1000 series. There's no number on it. So it's a community 1000 board operations policy. So it would cover the board and all of our guests and how we operate. So it's a non-discrimination policy for us. So if anyone has questions, comments, or edits.
No?
All right,
Okay.
so then I would like to make a motion. I think we need to give it a number, Jeff.
Yeah, I just made a note, Jamie. Jackie and I will give it a number and a home tomorrow.
Thank you.
Yep.
Board of Ed policy 1000 community board operations, non-discrimination.
Okay, who'd like to second it?
I'll second it.
Jill seconds it. Okay, any other discussion on this one? No? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody want to abstain? And that passes.
Jeff, when you and Jackie give it a home, can we fill in the blanks with the right policy numbers?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, so the next one is a second reading of a suggested reading for suggested revision of board policy 51319, bullying prevention and intervention. Any questions, comments, or edits?
Nope.
Okay, I would like to make a motion to approve the revisions to Board of Ed policy 51319, bullying prevention and intervention.
Okay. Second? Anybody would like to second it?
I can. I
Okay,
second it.
thanks, Jill. Discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Anybody want to oppose? Anybody want to abstain? Okay, that passes. Two more.
All right, so the next one is Board of Ed policy dressing and grooming 5132. There's some revisions. We basically kind of revamped the entire policy. So this is a second reading. If anyone has any questions, comments, or edits, I know I have one. At the end of, there should be no period after the word question in the first line.
Okay,
But that's it for me.
okay. Anybody else? Okay,
All right, I'd like to make a motion to approve the revisions to board policy 5132. dressing and grooming.
All right. Anybody want to second that motion?
Eric, I'll second it.
Thanks,
Okay,
Eric.
thanks, Eric. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anybody want to oppose? Does anybody want to abstain? Okay, passes. That one passes. And the last one,
The next one is the final one. It is suggested revisions to board policy 6161, equipment, books, and materials. Any questions, comments, or edits?
nope.
All right, so I'd like to make a motion to approve the suggested revisions to Board of Ed policy 6161, equipment, books, and materials.
Okay. Jill, you second it?
Thanks, Jill.
Okay. And,
Thank you, everyone.
okay, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Does anybody oppose? Anybody abstain? No, passes unanimously. Okay, thanks, Jamie. Okay, the next item, the last item on our for discussion and action for this evening is
6:30.
is the, yes, that's right, yeah, is the proposed Eastline Public Schools Administrator contract for July 21 through June 24th. And Jeff, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, I want to thank the administrators. I mean, this was a very, smooth negotiation, with them. They have done a phenomenal job, and I just appreciate their efforts. And I think this was a very fair and a contract that reflects, all the hard work that they've done. So kudos to Jeff Provost as a president and the entire team. Thank you very much.
Okay. Did you want to say anything more about the contract? It's a 3-year contract.
That's right. I can share a little bit of information specific to to the contract. Yeah, 3-year agreement. And not a lot of verbiage, changes at all. We focused on the health insurance aspect, obviously the salary, which aligns with right around the state average. And that was pretty much it. I mean, a few semantics components, but we're all in the state partnership plan for the health insurance component. So again, some semantics within the contract, minor tweakage of some verbiage, but that was about it. So hopefully everybody had a chance, to kind of take a look, at again that one pager that we reviewed.
Okay.
Tim, this is Jeff. Can I speak for just a minute?
Sure, absolutely.
Hey, I just want to thank the Board of Education, and I want to thank Jeff Newton. I agree with Jeff. This was a very, very good negotiating season for us. I've been through this 5 times now, and I think without question, this was the best one we've ever had. And I do want to thank the Board of Ed for their work on this, and also our administrators negotiating team who put a lot of work into this, as well as the two lawyers who did a really, really nice job, and both had an open mind, and we were able to get this done rather quickly. So thank you to everybody. We also feel like it's a fair contract, and we feel supported by the Board of Education and our superintendent, and I wanted to say thank you.
Okay, good. Very good. Okay, with that, anybody who would like to make a motion?
I will. I would like to recommend approval by the Board of Education for the proposed Eastline Public Schools Administrators Contract for July 2021 to June 2024.
Okay,
I
good.
second it. Eric?
Eric seconds it. Okay, good. Any further discussion on this item? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Anybody want to oppose? Does anybody want to abstain? Okay, so passes unanimously, and great. It's excellent. It's very good to have that done in a very positive way. So we thank everybody that was on the negotiating teams, both on the administrator's side as well as on the Board of Ed side. Okay, that concludes the discussion action items for the evening, and that brings us into administration reports. Superintendent?
Yeah, just two items. First and foremost, I want to thank Barry for introducing us to Carla Vigil. I had a chance to meet with Carla at the end of last week from the Equity Institute. Great individual. I had a fabulous conversation with her. I think she's sending over a proposal. We talked initially about, the idea of trying to get a baseline. I think, Tim, actually, you had brought up the idea of, trying to do an audit per se of the district. So we talked at length about that and some of the things at the Equity Institute, and they're based out of Providence, Rhode Island. But she was fabulous to talk to. I think there could be something there that, maybe we could look at, for the future, but we'll get the proposal over. I'll share that, with the board once we have it. She said it might be either before Thanksgiving or after, and we'll have some further conversations. So thank you, Barry, for turning us on to her. She was a joy to talk with last week. And also, I just wanted to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. I know it's tough times, and hopefully you stay safe and be with your family. And if you're traveling, be safe. But I just wanted to take the opportunity to say happy Thanksgiving to everybody on the line.
Good. Excellent. Amy, do you have something?
Just really quick, just to update you, as we send out a letter every day, I receive cohort change requests, usually within hours after letters going out. They're really in two directions. They're either they want to go fully virtual or they want to come in 4 days a week. So it's sort of down two different paths at the moment. And the next time I give you an update, I'll give you updated numbers on virtual Viking, because we're going to be making, I've been getting, my email's been digging during this board meeting with additional cohort changes. So we're continuing to do that and be highly responsive to parents as we understand their needs at this time. And then the other piece, I think, for me is the administrative staff on Thursday sent out a sort of gratitude and thankful message across our entire district, as a means of just thanking our entire staff for everything that they've done over the past couple months, and just feeling tremendous gratitude. And I know I thanked all of you very much, but I guess while I have you all here to look in your eyes, just the continued support, the questions that push our thinking, and just really knowing that we're sort of a we in this work is very important. And I have a lot of gratitude towards that. So I have a lot of respect for what our teachers and paras and food service workers and our security staff and maintenance and everybody's pulling off right now. And I'm pretty much in awe of them. So just feeling a lot of gratitude for the staff that we have circulating us and supporting our students. So thank you to all of you. And I wish you a happy Thanksgiving with a small or large family, whatever, Zooming family, however you're celebrating it this year. So take care and happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks, Amy. Mariana, I think anything to add to the budget discussions that we had?
Nope, just happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Enjoy your families.
Okay, great, excellent. Committee reports. We did have an FFO committee meeting. Eric, I think we covered everything. Anything you want to add?
No, those were the topics. We covered it all. So thanks for everyone for the help.
Okay. And that brings us to board comments and future agenda topics. Anybody have a comment? Jamie?
So I have a couple. My first one is going to be Coastal Connections. We never talk about them. How are they doing? How are they holding up? What's going on with their classes during all of this? They're never a topic of our conversation when we talk about the high school, the middle school, the elementary schools. How is Coastal doing?
Okay, good. We'll put that on the, Jeff and I had actually talked about putting that on the agenda a couple of weeks ago, I think.
Yes, I actually have them slated for December, Jamie. I was going to try to do it for this meeting. There's just too many items, so.
No, that's fine. It's just been on the back burner of my head and I keep forgetting to ask for every meeting. So this time I made sure to write it down so that I would remember to ask. Because I always forget. We get to the end and I forget. My second one, which I was talking to you briefly about, was Delegate Assembly. Candace and I were very lucky to come into central office for Delegate Assembly and use some new tech in central office. That was really cool to help us do that. So we'll have feedback for them. But as usual, Candace and I had a lot of discussion about all the stuff that we were voting on before we voted on it. So it was really, really good to do that. It was just weird to not be doing it in person and not having the conversation with all the boards. So we couldn't see them, we couldn't talk to them, we couldn't interact. So you couldn't even see them on the camera. You didn't even know who was at the meeting. So it was really hard to have the robust discussion that we normally have at Delegate Assembly. So that was my second one. And my third one is about Board of Ed communications. And it's just a reminder that when you hit reply all on a text or an email, it becomes a Board of Ed meeting and it can be FOI'd. So it's just a little reminder to everybody not to reply to texts and not to reply to emails, because then it becomes a Board of Ed meeting. So that's it for me.
Thanks, Jamie. Anybody else have comments? Barry?
I have a quick item. You know that I'm continually looking on this idea of how we can get all our schools to be category 1, top category distinctive schools in the state rankings. And I'm looking at like all the information I can gather on that as to like, you know, where the gap is, like how we can get up there. And there's some performance and growth gaps that I think that we can address. And I know that we're putting a lot of our eggs in the basket of socio-emotional learning. So I've spent this last week going into much research I could on what is the effectiveness and the efficacy of social emotional learning. And I'm finding like the claims of it are that it advances students' performance. And when you dig into that, you find that the variance of the effect of that is probably about an 10 to 11% gain for students that are in SEL programs versus those that aren't. And what that means is that if you had the non-SEL group, if they were given some kind of test or assessment and they scored a 70, that the SEL group would score 77 or 80. But then that's called like kind of a moderate effect. And the schools that have been able to make that into a large effect have instituted formative and summative assessments on the SEL competencies. Now, last week when we went over this, Jason presented a really good discussion of how they isolate each one of the competencies each week. And for example, self-awareness, and basically drive that in through direct instruction to all the students and all their activities. I'm also wondering to what extent and how we implement a formative and summative assessment plan on the students' development of the SEL competencies. So I think if we could have a discussion of that at one of our future board meetings, it might be an understanding of how we are or can use the focus on SLE competencies to drive our schools up and to become category 1 schools of distinction.
Okay, good. Excellent. Excellent. Very good. Anybody else? Eric? Oh, I'm sorry. Kate's got her hand up, and then we'll do Eric. Go ahead, Kate. Oh, you're on mute.
Just real quick, wondering about the clubs at the high school, if they need sponsors and what the update on that would be, and also the nonprofit, what's going on with the Chinese Academy, and also Stars to STEM, if we could put that into the agenda somehow so that that gets updated and reviewed. I had also asked at the last board meeting about the possibility of doing a visit to see how school is going in the time of COVID. And thank you to everybody and happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, thanks, Kate. Good. Eric?
Kate mentioned the Stars to STEM. I definitely would like, you know, I guess we can bring it up as an agenda item, but we haven't gotten an update, I think, in a long time. We're supposed to be getting, I thought, monthly or quarterly updates, and I haven't seen anything recently. So it would be really helpful to just, I don't even know where we stand. And I understand COVID probably turned everything upside down, but it'd be really good to understand where we are with that. Whether it's pre-read for discussion, something along those lines, because I think it'd be good to understand where we are.
Yeah, I think Diane in her opening remarks or in her public comment just requested to have a Zoom meeting with some principals from the Board of Ed to get an update. And Jeff, maybe that's the best thing. That's the best thing to do to kind of restart
there are
that.
A few of us, I can't remember who. I know I was one who were
Yeah.
on Stars to STEM committee. We haven't met in a long time, so I can't remember. Lee may have been. Lee was.
Yeah, it was
John?
me and Lee. Yep.
Okay. So the three of
Okay.
us, I think we're on it.
Okay, good. Anything else? Anybody else? Kate, did you want to say
I
something
thought
else?
Diane gave us an update with her statement that she sent us.
No. She just said, all she said that was, they, they're still alive and they want to keep the planetarium hold it, don't, to use it. Then she requested that she have a Zoom meeting with some of the members of the Board of Ed, as we were just talking about. So
Okay.
we'll
Great.
make sure that happens.
Okay.
Good. I just, the one thing I just wanted to say was, and it echoes what Amy said, was to just give an enormous thanks to all the administrative team. I mean, everybody in the district has done a fantastic job. But I think the board feels extremely, we're very lucky to have our administrative team in place and the work that everybody does. And Jeff, all the hard work and everybody, the hours that you guys have been putting in with all the contact tracing and everything. It's really wonderful that you do that. So, and to that end, I'll also say Happy Thanksgiving. And with that, we will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I would love to entertain the motion to adjourn, and everybody have a happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks, Jamie. Anybody second that?
I'll second, and happy Thanksgiving all.
Thanks, Eric. Okay, all those in favor.
Happy
signify by
Thanksgiving,
saying
Paul.
aye.
Bye. Happy
Happy
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
Okay, bye.